Six Flags St. Louis is far from the best park out there. Its guest experience is below average, but it does have a pretty decent lineup of coasters. It has everything you need in a lineup, except for a kiddie coaster. I got to ride all 9 of the good, mediocre, and horrible coasters in this park, and I will now rank them all. This is every Six Flags St. Louis coaster ranked. Luckily, there is no kiddie coaster in this park, so we can get straight into the big coasters. Number 9, Ninja. There are some smaller family coasters in this park, but this large custom looper built by both Arrow and Vekoma is so bad that it places below both. This is in my bottom 10 coasters I've ridden, and the layout isn't even that bad. Overall, the coaster looks pretty good, and it has some decent elements. It also has an incredible head chopper with the lift chain and the Sidewinder, which feels way too close. But everything else about this ride is so horrible. After a jerky turnaround, you enter a small valley and loop. So far, the ride is very rattly, but nothing too horrible. And then we get into the turning transitions with laterals. Every transition that has a turn in this ride seems like it was designed in Roller Coaster Tycoon. The Sidewinder element is the roughest part on any coaster I've experienced. This part of the ride gave me a headache for the rest of the day, so I'm glad it was the last credit I needed. There isn't even a point in going it through the rest of the ride. Every single element is just like the Sidewinder, full of headbanging into the hard and bulky restraints. Slow, boring, and just a horrible experience. Number 8, Boomerang. Not far off from Ninja is the Boomerang. I was actually debating which one to put before I realized that Boomerang had more redeeming qualities than Ninja. The setting for Boomerang is beautiful, located on top of the hill in the park. It gives a great view of the rest of the park. It also has some great force to it with the vertical loop. However, just like Ninja, this ride has some of the worst restraints ever. They are super hard and bulky over the shoulder restraints. After the climb backwards, you plunge to the station. I don't know how this part of the ride manages to be so shaky. The other 2 Boomerangs I've ridden did not do this at all. Then we enter basically 2 of Ninja's Sidewinders, but taking at a faster speed. This is the Cobra Roll. This element succeeds in being the second roughest part of any coaster I've ridden. Yes, the 2 roughest parts on any coaster are in the same park. If this is your home park, just avoid these 2 rides at all costs. After a very shaky loop comes a surprising layer of pain I wasn't expecting. There's a massive jolt on the second lift hill that will cause you whiplash if you don't brace. The second half is a little better due to the slower speed through the Cobra Roll, but it is still a very shaky and uncomfortable experience. Just get the credits on these 2 coasters and never come back. Number 7, River King Mine Train. This is the last coaster in the park that I will only ride once and never again. River King Mine Train has got to be the worst mine train I've experienced. The ride is actually very smooth for its age, and it has a very unique history. This ride actually used to be a dueling mine train. Then, stand-up trains were added to the racing side until it was relocated to Dollywood, then Magic Springs in Arkansas. Overall, this ride is just the most boring ride you could imagine. Even for a mine train, this ride feels way too slow and boring. And the worst thing is that the setting is boring. Mine trains heavily rely on the setting, so a boring coaster in a field with a few trees isn't great. For families, this ride is probably amazing, but for a coaster enthusiast like myself, this is a one and done. Number 6, Pandemonium. Up next is a much more exciting family coaster, which could actually count as a thrill coaster. Pandemonium is a clone coaster, but one of my favorite clones so far. This ride spins so much if you have the car unbalanced, which we did. Overall, the ride has some very tight valleys and aggressive drops off brake runs that could actually cause for some spinning airtime. It was basically a warm-up to Time Traveler, which I rode the day after. Even though this ride is small, I couldn't help but smile the whole way through with just how crazy it was. It even made me a little dizzy when I got off. Number 5, Screamin' Eagle. This was one of my more anticipated coasters in the park because I heard great things about it. It was only a little disappointing. The setting in the woods is phenomenal. I love how it rockets through the trees. And this ride keeps its speed extremely well. It flies over the treetops and down the valleys. Also, the best thing about this ride is how smooth it is. The drops have tight valleys and there is no jackhammering at all. It has the classic wooden coaster rumble, which in my opinion is a bonus. That wooden coaster rumble might be my favorite thing about classic Woodies. And it is part of the reason Racer at Kings Island always ranks so highly for me. The disappointing part was the airtime. I heard that this ride has strong floater on every hill. I did get some great floater airtime, but it was on less than half of the hills. The trip out, surprisingly, was the part of the ride that didn't have any airtime. The return trip and drops off those high turns was great with strong airtime, but that trip out was a bit underwhelming. Overall, this ride is very fun, but needs a bit more. Number 4, The Boss. Not enough people talk about how great this coaster is. This ride is in a great setting to start off. It's located on a big hill in the middle of the woods, making it a perfect setting for a huge wooden coaster. Everyone saying this ride is a spine breaker is completely incorrect. This ride, just like Screamin' Eagle, is perfectly smooth and just has a rumble. But this ride overall is more well-rounded than Screamin' Eagle. It's more focused on speed and laterals, and it provides. It still has some great airtime though. The massive first drop provides some great speed and floater, and this drop is basically a double down drop. After the valley is a dip down with some great head choppers, ejector airtime, and a violent lateral whip to the side. The ride takes some slower turnarounds which provide a great view before entering the even better second half. This part has a quicker turnaround near the park before taking a phenomenal drop, providing some great floater. The finale of the ride provides all of the previous strong points into one. Airtime hills, a speedy lateral turn, and 2 quick ejector pops into the brakes. The Boss is a very long ride and a well-rounded coaster that needs to be talked about more. Number 3, Batman, The Ride. I was looking forward to Batman as it was the first and only Batman clone I've ridden. I always thought they looked underrated as they had intense layouts, especially that second half. It did not disappoint at all. The drop was nothing special, but the loops were full of positives. The zero-G roll also provided some decent negatives on the entrance and some great whip throughout. The second half is where the G's really kick in though. Each turn provides some incredible sustained positives, all similar to the leg-numbing final helix of Raptor. The corkscrews are also the whippiest I've experienced on an invert, and both are very close together. All of these great elements, plus a decently smooth ride experience, make Batman one of my favorite inverts. Number 2, American Thunder. I'm not going to lie, even though I think this ride is amazing, I was expecting a little more. My expectations were set very high, and I was a little disappointed. We rode in the very back, so there was airtime littered everywhere. This is where the ride shines. Everywhere, there are unexpected little pops of negatives with whippy moments. This ride has a lot of turns which provide the laterals, as a lot of them are barely banked. Lateral and airtime moments combined makes for a great gimmick used a lot in the layout, similar to a lot of Mystic Timber's elements. The Twister layout provides an abundance of head choppers which I love in wooden coasters. The back provided a good whip down the lateral filled drop and amazing airtime during the massive floater hill. And everything else about this ride is great. While I wish the airtime in the second half was stronger and that vibration is a bit annoying, those are the only weaknesses this ride has. Number 1, Mr. Freeze Reverse Blast. And number 1 in the park is my 100th coaster. Mr. Freeze isn't by far the best in the park, but it was the only choice that made sense to me. This ride just does so much stuff right. Let's get an important question out of the way. Is it smooth? As smooth as butter. Other Premier launches can be rough or very shaky. This ride was glossy smooth, and it is powerful. This is one of the most intense coasters I've ridden, and I've ridden rides like Sky Rush and Intimidator. The elements had to be designed to withstand both the slow and a fast speed while still being fun, so some valleys are way too sharp. After an aggressive backwards launch out of the station, which slams guests into their comfortable restraints, the train rises up backwards into an inversion. It is very weird seeing the sky fall away from you after whipping backwards down the inverted top hat. A fun overbank leads into a massive spike, which has boosters. These boosters, again, slam riders into their restraints, which is terrifying for enthusiasts when climbing up over 100 feet in the air. Then, the train falls straight down, providing some incredible speed on one of the tightest valleys ever. The amount of sustained G-forces here is incredible. You are pushed down with sustained Gs all the way into the start of the inverted top hat. You are then whipped around and inverted before entering the station. This ride is very short and only has 4 elements, but it has to be one of the most exciting coasters ever. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed, leave a like and subscribe. Comment below of what you think of my Six Flags St. Louis list and email me with questions or concerns. Have a great rest of your day.